My name is Ruth de Vries. I work for World Press Photo as a project manager, and I'm the project coordinator for this project 2010. 2010 is an initiative of World Press Photo, Free Voice, Africa Media Online and Local Mondial, 3 Dutch-based organizations and 1 Africa-based organization. The idea is that we use the first World Cup on African soil as a momentum to create opportunities for African journalists to get more exposure both inside and outside Africa with storytelling. So the whole motto of the project is Africans telling Africa stories. I'm responsible for everything from, in the end, from the editorial to the logistics to the finance to the planning and all that. And I've been working on this project since, writing the proposal, in fact, so since summer of 2008. And so it's very important for me that I'll be here now to see, all this what we dreamed of in the beginning when we thought about the project. There are 36 photographers that were selected at the beginning of the project that apply to be participant in this project, and they come from a lot of different countries in Africa, and all of them have gone through a workshop on the African continent where they've been taught to tell stories. In the end, 4 photographers and 2 multimedia journalists were selected to be part of the dream team. And the selection was based on the quality of their work and their motivation to be part of the project. The Dream Team is the selection of the 18 best journalists from the project. So there are 6 photographers, 6 writers and 6 radio journalists that are here now in the World Cup for a period of 6 weeks, covering stories around the World Cup. Social stories, economic stories. World Press Photo's education department always wants to try and empower, photojournalists in areas where there are not much opportunities for learning and education. And Canon is one of the sponsors of World Press Photo, wanted to donate cameras to the project for the photographers in the project. So they've donated 36 cameras for all 36 photographers in the project at the beginning that we're now distributing to them as well. I like a lot the work of Andrew Sebo, a Nigerian photographer. He has stories in the book that we've published, Africa United, last April. I think 2 of his stories are in there, and he's just a guy who, he knows what he wants, and he's going for it, and I admire that a lot in him. I think, if you come from Nigeria, where I've never been personally, but we had one workshop there, and I've heard all the problems there were with transport and Lagos and the city, and he lives there. He's a photographer, and to make it this far, I think is very good. I really hope that by giving them all these opportunities, the workshops, the coming to South Africa, the traveling, the working with very experienced photographers and editors, that it's giving them like a boost for their own careers, and that they can take it from here, even though World Press Photo might not be there for them anymore in terms of providing more workshops or more things. So, and we have the website roadto2010.com where their work is displayed in a way that I think gives them a reference point, and yeah, so I really hope that from this they can move on. But I think World Press Photo will always keep on trying to look for ways to empower African or Asian or Latin American, worldwide, in fact, photographers and multimedia.
I'm Greg Marinovich. I'm a former conflict photographer and currently a photographer, filmmaker and writer of the Bang Bang Club, and I'm now, for this period, editor-in-chief of the 2010 project. Our vision during the World Cup is to cover things that are not being covered, is to dig in a lot deeper, because we're all African journalists and we have some of the most talented African journalists from across the continent, and photographers who are just amazing, and we're using them to do documentary work through the World Cup, to use the World Cup as a hook, as an angle, as an opportunity to tell stories that we might not have a chance to tell otherwise. But we're not looking at matches, match results, strictly speaking news. We're really trying to create a legacy, a time capsule of this amazing period in Africa's history when the first World Cup comes here. I'm doing most of the briefing as the South African angle, so I know most of the local stories. I can guide the African journalists where their interests are, to help them find something more interesting, deeper. And then I do edit, photos, multimedia, text, radio, Some great talents have come to the fore during this program, people who might not have had access to exposure. And I'm not surprised, because I've been working through Africa and mentoring African photographers for 2 decades now. So I know they're there, but to have an opportunity where they can express themselves and find a platform to really do things that are not commercially bound but suit what they want to tell is just fabulous, and people have blossomed. One is a Liberian photographer, very isolated. I met him years ago during the Liberian conflict, and he was a fixer, taking journalists to the front. And we had this chat, and it was a kind of passing chat, and years later I met him again, and he said, no, you changed everything, because you said just go out and cover your country's conflict, go and do it. And he did, and he started stringing for EPA and AFP and various things, and then he came on this course. Very quiet, didn't express his ideas well, but the pictures are amazing, and he's on the dream team doing a fantastic job. The Egyptian photographers, none of whom made the dream team, but they were all star photographers used to doing soccer, and they came with a very closeted newspaper mindset. And one of them got very angry. I was pouring sweat during the workshop. Why are you showing us these pictures? They're blurred. It's like, what is the meaning of these pictures? Really got upset. 48 hours later, he was shooting them as fantastic stuff. Mohammed Abdul's work, superb. Most of the work is produced on Canon cameras, and some of the people have got the latest, like the 5D Mark II, so the multimedia is being produced on that, and it's super. Quality is great, and it's you know, it's top end. And some of these people, including on the dream team, like the Liberian photographer and the Cote d'Ivoirian photographer, have got gear that's from the Ark. It's terrible, it's shocking, and they shouldn't be shooting, you know, bad African newspaper pictures on it in terms of quality, yet they're succeeding here. So it's been a concern to me, and it's always one of those things. And what's great is that Canon had some gear, so some of these people will have a chance to really have the technological edge as well as the visual edge and the intellectual approach. I'm really so excited about what's happening. I mean, some of the things we asked for are quite ambitious. To ask a group of people who've never worked together, photographers, journalists, radio, multimedia, editors, to produce something in a very short period of time that is unique and that will outlast this very time-bound space we're in, the World Cup, which will pass. And I think we're achieving it. For people to buy African in-depth work by African photographers is difficult, but I think this will encourage people to do that. Once they see these stories out there and the way the fluency, the photographic fluency with which people are telling these stories, I think they'll be encouraged to run them. And if it's not in the traditional media, it'll be galleries and online. It doesn't matter, as long as the stories get out there and these people's work gets exposed. I mean, many of these stories that I've commissioned and offered to the journalists to cover and the photographers are things that I've wanted to do, and you kind of don't get around to doing them, or you do a part of them and there's a greater thing and you never have the time, or it's not commercially viable to do. And to see people from all over Africa going, like, their eyes lighting up when you throw an idea at them and you give them some of the background. So it's very nice to me to, like, because I just want stories told. I don't care if I'm doing them or not. So to have them told and to have them documented is what I want and makes me very happy.